Adaptability as an entrepreneur is a skill that is super, super essential, particularly as the world is just going to keep changing minute by minute, second by second. What is the second most essential skill that I think entrepreneurs should have today? It's communication. Here's why communication is super important for entrepreneurs. As an entrepreneur, your life is all about building relationships, whether it's with stakeholders, whether it's with your customer, or whether it's with your team. So there's three things that I want to talk about in today's podcast, and that is the skill of adaptability, the essential skill of communication, and of course, one that won't surprise any of you, and that is welcome to the Disruptionist, where the status quo has no seat at the table. I'm Jess Singh, and this is your invitation to join the movement of game-changing, boundary-pushing strategies that will take your marketing, branding, and customer journey to the next level. Let's get disruptive. Have you ever actually wondered what the top 3 essential skills are for successful entrepreneurs? I'm always asking myself this question, and I've started thinking about it in the terms of 3 things that are really showing up for me right now in the world of entrepreneurialism. So there's 3 things that I want to talk about in today's podcast, and that is the skill of adaptability, the essential skill of communication, and of course, one that won't surprise any of you, and that is the ability to problem solve. So let's start with adaptability. Obviously, one of the most important things about being an entrepreneur is the fact that it's often associated with being super innovative, right? Entrepreneurs are the ones that actually come up with solutions to problems that other people don't even want to attempt. And I guess where I'm going to sort of take the focus for today is actually talking about one of the most recent events in our history, and that's COVID. When COVID happened, we saw the best of the best sort of rise up, and those that were never going to be able to adapt and be true entrepreneurs, they basically had to shut up shop. So what was the difference between the two? Those that were adaptable actually looked at this new environment and were able to come up with new ways of doing things. So there were so many sort of stories that I've read personally. So whether it was from a whiskey company that was able to make some minor changes in their production facility and then actually develop the hand sanitizer that everybody was looking for and that was selling out and that Australia couldn't access from overseas, to more Australian-based companies that were reliant on, say, live in-person events, who then had to basically pivot and start thinking about how do they connect to their customer who is no longer able to leave their home. And a lot of these education companies started to really dabble in the world of the online programs. It's no coincidence that since COVID, so many of us are doing courses online. And you know what? Because of the innovation and the ability to adapt by these early sort of leaders in this whole world of online education, the experience has just gotten better and better for us as students as well who are trying to learn online. Before COVID, I actually worked in the online education space for quite a long time, and unis were doing their best, trying to experiment. But when something like COVID came along and it actually forced businesses to go out there, and it wasn't a nice to have anymore to be able to attract customers in an online method, and they could only teach through the internet, through a computer and not face to face, the amount of innovation that happened then was just super, super exciting. And I don't know if you felt it yourself, but if you ever did a course and you did it pre-COVID and now you've done any number of courses after the fact, the experiences are just getting better and better. So adaptability as an entrepreneur is a skill that is super, super essential, particularly as the world is just going to keep changing minute by minute, second by second. That brings me to number 2. What is the second most essential skill that I think entrepreneurs should have today? It's communication. I mean, as someone who spends all of their time helping brands to communicate, that doesn't come as a surprise, but here's why I think communication is super important for entrepreneurs. As an entrepreneur, your life is all about building relationships, whether it's with stakeholders, whether it's with your customer, or whether it's with your team. An example of a company that I've most recently worked with, where communication is just so excellent that I'm totally encouraged, and I think I'll be stealing some of their communication methods, is a company that meets with the entire team for a morning huddle and for an afternoon huddle. What does this mean? It means that every single part of this particular organization, so whether it was the sales team, whether it's the coaching team, whether it's the marketing team, or whether it's operations, they come together every morning and every afternoon just to keep everybody updated about what's happening. Now, granted, this is not a big corporate, but we're not talking to, an audience of folks out here who have big corporate companies. I'm talking to you as small business owners. And this is something that I found super amazing because they also communicated based on the mission, values, and vision of their company as well. So in other words, when this team would come together and talk about some of the things that they hope to accomplish that day, by tying it back to like the value within their business, which is to have fun, they might say, oh, today we've got this particular task and I'm really excited about it. It just brought the DNA of that company to life in every single morning meeting and every single afternoon meeting. So as an entrepreneur, I think I touched on this a little bit when I brought up this example of the company and the way in which they communicate all the time. So I brought up the words mission, vision, and values. So when it comes to you being a leader and the ability to be able to actually communicate and actually provide your team with alignment, there's nothing better than constantly reiterating your mission, vision, and values with the team. And so that's why the example that I shared with you before excited me quite a bit. The fact that every day-to-day mundane task, rather than it just being about sharing that this is what's on my list, actually being able to teach your staff to tie it back to either a vision or one of the key values of your organization. It just keeps it alive. It keeps that brand focused and it keeps everyone on the same page about what they're here to do and why that task matters so much to that particular business. So one of the things that we wanted to sort of talk about here is just the role that problem solving can play in the entrepreneur's life. When I think of entrepreneurial businesses, one of the first ones that come to mind is Uber. Uber essentially was the result of somebody coming up with a solution to problems that we all had. A lot of us hated having to deal with the taxi services out there where we didn't know anything about the person that was picking us up in terms of the pricing. Maybe there wasn't any true transparency around pricing. And all of a sudden, there was somebody out there who decided to tackle that problem in a unique and new way. And all of a sudden, this app called Uber was born. That's just another prime example of why if you want to create a new market, perhaps, it's never going to happen as an entrepreneur if you do not apply your ability to problem solve. So for example, a corporate company might have a huge budget that they can just throw at in terms of when they're launching a new product, but as an entrepreneur and a small business owner, you don't necessarily have $1 million budget. So it might mean that you have to use different and innovative techniques like user-generated content, organic posts, and all sorts of other things. It takes a problem-solving mindset in this particular case to be able to still have impact and still be able to resonate and reach your audiences without that $1 million budget. So to sum things up, if there are 3 essential skills that I think every entrepreneur should have today, it's the ability to be adaptable, to have great communication, and to always have a problem-solving mindset. So what do you think? Am I on the right track, or do you think that there's something else that I've completely missed? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Come and communicate with me, DM me, let's have a chat, and let's get this conversation going. See you next time. Thanks for joining me on The Disruptionists. If this episode sparked new ideas or challenged your thinking, I'd love your support with a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And don't forget to subscribe to your favorite platform to catch every disruptive insight. For more behind-the-scenes content and to connect with like-minded disruptors, follow me at It's Jess Singh across all social platforms. And remember, stay disruptive.